Happy Halloween. Whoa. It's good to see you, John. I hope you had an
Happy
awesome Halloween
Halloween.
weekend. Yeah, man. It's great to see you.
I actually thought that Halloween was going to be a big downer. And actually, in this neighborhood, they do go all out. They have lights, they have Jack Skellington everywhere, they had Scooby Doo pirates. There was my next door neighbor made like this PVC pipe
Yeah.
launcher of candy. It would just like spray candy out into the street like every 30 seconds. And he had like skeletons manning it with like some skeleton demon horse up at the top.
Yeah.
His kids were Freddy Krueger. These kids like Freddy Krueger, Jason,
Yeah.
and Chucky, just kind of running around his street. It was
That's awesome.
amazing.
We went to so many houses that had candy out front, and I think because like a lot of people weren't going to be like out there handing the candy out, they set up decorations and skeletons and stuff like that to do it for them. One house we went to, like it had different stations that you went to, and each station had like a werewolf or like some spirit thing. And like this guy
Yeah,
had like programmed it so it like told you a story and stuff, and it had all these lights and smoke, and like all the kids love it, including my nephew, who's not even a year old, like 10 months. They just love the
uh-huh.
colors. And it's like sitting in front of this like deathly, like demon looking thing that's like telling him a story about like, you're going to go with me forever. And he's just like, oh, pretty purple.
I know. It would have freaked me out as a kid, but my girls were like going to like the demons and the skeletons and stuff. They're like, "Oh, he's so cute. He's so great. I like it. Can we take him home?" And I'm like, I would have been, I would have been livid at your age running off the.
So
But they were
apparently you
great.
went as a vampire. Is that what I'm seeing here?
Oh yeah, there's the vampire cloak
Very
here,
nice.
and it's reversible, which is very very
Black and
awesome.
red.
But yeah, I had this for a while. This was something that I actually obtained from like back in college. I went over to a like just a mom and pop shop and was asking for this because I wanted to be Phantom of the Opera,
Yeah.
and they ended up making this out of like pure satin. It was just an incredible material, and they only charged me $20 for the thing, but I tipped her like 100 because it was just the most amazing material and amazing cloak that I've ever seen. So I've kept it all this time, and it's a very very good costume, pretty
This was
versatile.
also $20, but I did not tip anyone because
Dude, are you
I believe
you Judy?
I don't know what material this is, but I seriously doubt it's from Saudi Arabia.
Oh,
Now that being said, we did do our best impression, and I got to show you our pictures. This is my family and I, and yes, I went all out.
nice.
I had the fake beard. I had the blue. My wife has been watching all these shows where they have to like paint makeup on people for like, like in an hour. You got to make
I
them
love
look
the
perfect.
beard.
She's like, I got this, and then, like had me sit in a chair and just like went nuts with all the blue. So did the full blue. You can see there's my son. He was Aladdin.
Oh, that's
He's got the
awesome.
little like red hat going on and all that stuff.
And your
Um,
wife's Raja, I'm assuming, right?
that's correct. That one did not take long.
Yeah,
But I was
right.
like, hey, you already look good. So, just put that on and you're fine. And
Yeah,
then our
right.
daughter was
Exactly.
Jasmine. You can see Samantha there. She's got the little plastic gems, but she doesn't know they're plastic on her face.
Right.
So,
They're closest to her, which is amazing.
oh, yeah. And then she wore them to church this morning. So that was nice.
That coat. The coat's
And
incredible. I
I
will
got to
never
show
get
you
rid
the
of
close
that
up. Here's the close up, man. Like, take a look at this. There we go. Now, so
coat.
this was a great idea in theory and presentation, but in practice was terrible. And I'll tell you why. So we went to my friend's house, right? He lives in this cul-de-sac, and everybody like, dresses up and they go out into their, garage and they have music playing and everything else. And
Mhm.
they all bring their kids. So there's probably like 40 people there, bunch of kids running around, all kinds of like stuff in the
Okay.
yard to play with. And, what happened was they did a chili cook-off and it was amazing. They had like 6 different
Yeah.
recipes and they had all these desserts and everything else. And I don't know how you do it with the beard
Is it the
because
beard? I knew it was the beard. I knew the beard would complement
because I got some
you.
chili. It was amazing. It also went everywhere. So like,
Yeah.
first of all, I couldn't open my mouth because of all the blue like face paint. So I'm like trying to open my mouth, and then like I finally get some chili, and it goes all over the beard, like everywhere. And because it's not real, like you can't feel it. And some
Yeah,
people are
you
like,
don't sense it.
oh, like what is that in your beard? And I'm like, I don't know, I can't feel anything. And then I look at it, like, oh, there's chili in there. And then I was like trying to get it out and stuff, and like half
Right.
the hair went into my mouth, so it was just gross and stuff.
See,
But hey,
when you start getting to past this level of beard, you start compartmentalizing and keeping compartments just for like snacks later on, and then you can be like, oh yeah, that was the chili right there.
but I also feel like, I have to apologize to anybody that was offended, including any Smurfs, any of the
Right.
Navi, like
Will Smith,
any,
you might be offended.
yeah, exactly, like any of the blue, men group or whatever. So, and the other thing is like, I ran this by a couple of my liberal friends. I'm like, is this okay? And I was like, just so you know, I have actually been to Saudi Arabia and like the Emirates and the Middle East and stuff, and I had a great time and it was super fun. And I am purely appropriating this for the joy of my children, just so you know, like not to make.
Oh no, they should have actually casted you over Will Smith in the new Aladdin film. I think that would have been gone over much better.
I had to,
Actually, in my
I had
opinion.
to, I had to sit here and think about it. I'm like, which one are we going with? And I think it's like a hybrid, because like you got like the Aladdin, background there and stuff like that from the cartoon, which I'm pretty sure is my favorite. I'm not a huge fan of like the Will Smith version. I got to be honest, like you just can't hold a candle to Robin Williams in his prime, man.
Yeah.
This is
Well, it's
amazing.
because Robin Williams wasn't afraid to like bring those anachronistic elements of like he'd be like, bringing up different accents and impersonations that only you would know if you like lived during like the 90s and stuff. And Will Smith just kept it purely like mostly, within the time frame of Aladdin, but it was
So I
okay.
had lots of dad jokes and things like that. I was like, we brought our A game, get it? Like I don't know. So it was fun, man. It was a good time. So this is
No, it was a good time. I think with Halloween, like we just hit up like my family's house and a couple of our friends' houses. It couldn't have been more than about maybe 9 or 10 houses, and the kids still came back with their bags just overloaded with
yeah.
candy. I thought they were just gonna have like a few, and that would be it. But like, I think because people knew that they might not get as many trick or treaters, they loaded up the candy in like individual bags.
Yeah.
But I remember us trick or treating, and like we'd be happy to go to a house and get like a piece of bubble gum, and then
Right.
like to a tootsie, and then get like a tootsie roll, and then like maybe one house would be like, oh, there's Reese's at that house, and they get like one Reese's cup. These
They
kids were
got the
getting like
white Reese's, the white
a
chocolate.
gallon.
Go.
I know it's like go that way, and then like you put sunglasses on, and like, oh, let's dress up the dog. Yeah, we'll get the dog, and then we can go back to the same house and get treats again. This was like the kids would get like a gallon size Ziploc bag filled with candy. I'm like, the first house. Well,
Yeah.
let's just go home now. Like we're done. We're done with trick or
We had our
treating now.
nephew with us who's like 10 months, and like he's holding on to like not just a Hershey's bar, but like enough to make s'mores for everyone size Hershey bar. And
Yeah,
he's like, ah. Like, it was
I
amazing.
know. It's nuts what the candy they could get. But it was a really good night. My kids went as Mulan, and I was actually surprised. You think that like I guess Elsa's all the rage, maybe Anna, any of the classic princesses, but like she was very, very adamant. She's like, I want Mulan. And I was like, I'll just give it a day or maybe a week or so. And then like before I buy the costume, because I don't want to drop
Yeah.
some money on the costume until I know that that's exactly what they want to wear. Otherwise it might be just a passing, phase. No, but she was like, the next week she was like, Mulan. Okay,
Yeah. That's
you
awesome.
got it. We'll get you the sword. We'll get you like the hair braid and everything. And it's going to be good. And then the other one was Sky from Paw Patrol.
There you
So
go. That's awesome.
it worked out really well.
So it's great, man. Like it was fun getting back into a routine, doing some normal stuff, like like actually getting out and seeing people and all that.
Yeah.
Just getting back to a little bit normal. And you got the holidays coming in, Christmas, Thanksgiving, all that stuff is coming. We've
It
got
feels good.
birthday. I know you got like your birthday coming up. Your kids are having their birthdays. Like it's great, man. So many things to be thankful for, as we head through the fall. And kind
I
of,
agree.
I mentioned church, we're starting to have people coming back to our church. And so it's a good feeling. It's
Mhm.
almost like a huge sigh of relief, even though we're not really out of the woods yet, but, there are some things that are coming back to normal, and it's just fun. It's fun seeing football on TV and Halloween trick-or-treating and all the, I think after
Yeah.
coming out of this COVID thing, you tend to realize how much, fun society is and being around other people and things like that. And now we're slowly starting to trickle back to some normalcy. And I just, it's, oh man, like I guess I'm
I
just
think
an extrovert. I enjoy it so much. So
I do too. I mean, I greatly enjoy just seeing people. We had some guests over that we hadn't seen in about a year, and it was just nice to catch up with them. I know that we wanted to stay safe, and sometimes, like again, you're just trying to weigh the risks versus, well, are there greater risks in us not connecting?
yeah,
And for the sake of our friendships, and just it was, I had no regrets for hosting this family in our home because it was amazing to catch up with them. They're just there's strong relationships that we have where we can open up to them and share our struggles and they can share theirs.
that's
And they
awesome.
stay for the weekend. Their kids got to connect with my kids. And it was all just incredibly worthwhile. We got to go over to a farmer's market and we did some social distancing there, but we got to like enjoy like sourdough yeasted donuts. We got to enjoy like brownies and s'mores,
That's great.
pumpkins and pumpkin painting. It was just very refreshing. And it's what we all definitely needed.
That's great,
Yeah.
man. Oh no, I love it. So it's it's just one of those things where when you look at the COVID stuff and all that, I mean, it was this period of time where there was a lot of concern over it. There was a lot of fear, and I know for political reasons, some people are still living a lot in that, and some people for health for legitimate health reasons. Like
Yeah, for
they're
sure.
older pre-existing conditions, but at the same time, we're starting to hit that point where we've flattened the curve quite a bit, and yep, cases are going up, but that's also because people are going back to school and work and everything else. And that was kind of known. And at least that's happening now, 6, 7 months into this, as opposed to in the first couple months, right? It's given
Mhm.
doctors and ERs and everything else a chance to, understand what they're wrestling with. And so it's part of the cost of living is risk, and so it's just fun to see something like this. And maybe there'll be a little bit of a spike for COVID, that comes from Halloween and things like that. But again, at least it's now, months into this as opposed to later. And I think at least down here in
Yeah.
Florida, there's still quite a bit of like responsible action of people, wearing masks at church and things like that. And even when we were
Mhm.
treating, like I said, a lot of people were keeping their distance, which is just really cool, and it's all in good fun. So that's really exciting. It's going to be interesting. So we're talking about COVID, we're talking about the holidays, we're talking about the fall. The next big
Yep.
thing on the list is the election. So switching into some of the political topics, which you're going to try to take me seriously, like as a genie, I'm going to grant you wishes for the election.
Well, I was
Your
actually going
candidate.
to hinge.
Like,
Well, I was going to hinge my vote on who Biden and Trump were going to go as, for Halloween, and
yeah,
I didn't see them. I didn't see either one of them dress up, which is very disappointing to
yeah.
me. I think Pence should have had a huge fly, or he should have been like Jeff Goldblum, like turning into the Fly. I think that would have been a
I mean, I
really
could
great
have seen
costume.
Biden as the crypt keeper,
I think Trump should have just had like a wig of like Trump hair on him. That would have been enough.
So let's
But
look at it,
yeah,
man. We've been
yeah,
following the polls for the past, couple months and all this stuff, and now we're down to the last like couple days before
home
election
stretch.
starts to happen. And this is what I've come up with. Looking at all the polls and everything else, is we're starting to hit that point where we can actually see where many of the states turned red for Hillary at this point 4 years ago. And now the question is, are they going to turn red for Trump? And in some cases, that's possible. In other cases, who knows, right?
Yeah,
Like, so some of them that I've looked at is Texas was right around a 12-point lead for Trump this time 4 years ago. Now it's down to a 2-point lead. So I still think
yeah.
you can see I've got it on my map here. I've got it leaning for Trump, but it's not by the
Not
same distance.
yeah, not
Georgia
deep
is
red.
kind of a toss-up state, which is wild because it wasn't 4 years ago. But then at the same time, there are states that are leaning towards Trump the same way that they did right before he beat out Hillary. And so states like Florida and
Mhm.
Arizona, Ohio, and Iowa are all leaning Trump in several of the polls that are coming out, right? And so
Yep.
it's very possible that Trump wins. He slides by in Texas, wins by a couple points if the polls are right. He wins Florida. That's certainly likely.
It is very
Uh,
possible. Yeah.
Arizona, Iowa, Ohio. He could win those. Minnesota, I think, is certainly in play. But then you can see here. There's 4 states that I haven't declared one way or the other in my prediction.
Mm-hmm.
Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia. So,
Mm-hmm.
so again, this is just my prediction, but if the election goes this way, look at the numbers at the top left and the top right. Biden 240, Trump at 237. How close is
Close.
that? It's incredible. Okay? And then
Yeah.
do the math here. What happens if, let's say, Trump wins North Carolina and Georgia? So he picks up another 31 votes, right? Now he's at
Yep.
268. And then Biden wins Pennsylvania. He's at 260. And then Wisconsin's like too close to call, right? Or something like that, right? And
Mm.
then all of a sudden it's like if let's say if Wisconsin is too close to call and it's within like several thousand votes, they have to do a recall. It could decide the entire election, right? You could have 260 to 268. If Trump wins, he wins by 18. If he loses Wisconsin, Biden wins the whole thing, 270 to 268, right? You could
Mm.
have a like the 2000 election with George Bush and Al Gore over again.
Yeah,
It's
no.
it could come down to these four states, and I personally think that Trump is likely to pull it out in Georgia and North Carolina just based on voter enthusiasm. If he does that and Biden, slides by in Pennsylvania, or he slides by in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania's too close to call, you could have an election that is
Yeah,
just super close. So, what are your
absolutely.
thoughts? That's my predictions on that. Just looking at the polls every single day, pretty much for the past month. I think it's no kidding this close with 61 true toss-up votes. So, what are your thoughts? What's your
Yeah.
feedback on that? And for those people, it looks like we got about 5 or 6 folks who are watching live. If you want to comment, let me know. What do you think? Do you think this is right? You think that my
Mhm.
prediction is decent, or do you disagree? I'll show it to you one more time for those folks that are watching live. Um, you think I'm right or wrong when I say that Trump's likely to win Florida, Texas, Arizona, Iowa, Minnesota, Ohio? You think I'm right or wrong on that? And how do you think those four true battleground states, that's what I call them, the four true battleground states, how do you think those are going to go? I'm curious to see what people think. But let me get your thoughts first on that, John.
First off, I'll think that Wes, you're on track with running with the idea that we might not know this election, that's coming up, and I think that it will take a while, especially if it's that close. It could take months before any of us
That's very
know. I
true.
mean, I've got coworkers who are asking off for like a week or week and a half because like they're agonizing over the potential of this election and what's at risk. I think a great deal is at risk for sure. For sure. But it's very likely that we might not know. I think that Trump is certainly hitting the campaign a lot harder than Biden has been. I mean, even just today, you had Trump hitting all those states that were the toss-ups. Right there, he was going to. I think he hit up Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
He hit up Georgia. He hit up North Carolina. I think he hit up Michigan as well. So he and Iowa, he's going nonstop. And this is after him recuperating from COVID, which I think has done him at least a few favors, although the White House being infected has not. But I think that where Trump is coming off stronger and Biden is fading is that Trump is just celebrating America. He's
That's very
celebrating
true.
his
Yeah.
4 years, and people criticize him for not laying out a vision for the next 4 years. But I mean, he has a a campaign that is celebrating what he has done. He's saying, we're going to do this again. COVID hit me. I was down. I came back faster. I came back stronger. I came back better. America will do the exact same. And you can just see that just plastered all over his campaign so that he doesn't feel the need necessarily to lay out a whole lot of policy for the next 4 years because he says, what we've done, we're just going to simply do it better. And then whereas by contrast, you have Biden. I believe it was recently, like in the Iowa poll, which has been a pretty strong polling standard, that you have his support fading. I think he was at 41%, where Trump was at 47%.
Yeah.
And that's determined quite a few battleground states.
Yeah.
So it's extremely disconcerting, I think, to Democrats that there's some enthusiasm that's fading.
Yeah.
I think for Biden, although he had a strong turnout, voter turnout for mail-in ballots and for early voting. If that enthusiasm continues to wane for him, it's going to mean a whole lot of trouble. So I think that, of course, the debate didn't do him any favors for Pennsylvania, but he hails from there, so it's certainly a toss-up. Although you give it to Biden, and as long as Trump wins, Florida, wins Texas, and takes like North Carolina and Georgia, then then of course the game's afoot for him. But
Yeah.
I think that what's telling is that if Trump keeps the momentum going, and if Biden keeps on just doing a few, I mean, I think he did a couple of Zoom meets with
Yeah.
some voters. He's doing, some significant social distancing and just really trying to hinge the campaign on the coronavirus. You have one candidate who doesn't take it very seriously, according to him, and then you've got me, right, Biden, who is taking it extremely seriously. But I don't know if the caution is going to win him the votes.
Yeah, I mean,
At this
the whole thing is like, what would you have done differently, man? And that's what Trump said in the debate is, what would you have done different? Would you have shut the country down? Yeah, he did that. He did shut it down.
right,
Would you have tried to flatten the curve? Yeah. I think the biggest thing that Biden says is, well, I wouldn't have promised people that it would be over by Easter, which was stupid, right? But Trump doesn't own that remark anymore, right? He's made a living off of saying things that he later said, oh, I was just kidding, right? Like, oh, hydroxychloroquine, like, yeah, it sounded good to say at the time, like
Yeah.
that's a weak argument in comparison to, especially for the whole like politically incorrect candidate, like it's just not, that's never stuck. Jeb Bush tried that long time ago. It never works, trying to say, oh, Trump's being irresponsible with what he says. Yeah, like he's made a living being irresponsible with what he says. People have given up on that. They're voting for him in terms of action. And that's what you've got to say is, well, Trump should have done X, Y, and Z, in terms of his actual actions. This is how we're going to like navigate out of it, like all of these things. But that really hasn't been said. You're totally right, is that like Biden's more talking about, hey, someone's been hurt and we're going to link this back to Trump of not handling it correctly, and I will, even though I'm not going to tell you the specifics about it. I want to go, we got our first comment here from Mikkel. It looks like Mikkel says, it doesn't matter because Russia's going to hack the election, I guess. So I will tell you this, Mikkel, there's so many differences this time around than 2016. One of them is Facebook does not let you do any political advertising at all. Like I try, because we've got an election show coming up, and I'll actually go ahead and show this now, is we've got an election show. It's going to be me and you, John, and then Kyle's going to join us from our other show, Refounding Fathers. We're going to have about a 3-hour episode here, starting off around 7 and going till 10, just looking at the results as they come in. I wanted to do an advertisement for this show on Facebook, and I can't. I cannot advertise anything political because Facebook has shut it down. So tune into our show for sure. You can hear us talk as the results come in. But I'll also tell you that, like, look, none of that is like 2016 when Facebook allowed advertising all the way through the election. Yeah. They shut it down from October 27th to after the election. And so it doesn't matter if it's legitimate like us and like it's, reasonable discussion and, we're not foreign, investors or anything like that, like the Russians were. It doesn't matter. Facebook is saying, yep, we're going to just do without any revenue when it comes to this stuff for 3 or 4 days. So
that's fascinating.
They're trying to shut down some of that hacking. But, at this point, I think that like people have made up their minds. Most people have made up their minds are voting, and enthusiasm is out there. There certainly is still an anti-Trump, vote out there from the liberals. They want it out, but on the Trump side, there's just enormous amounts of enthusiasm because they see him as actually having followed through on his promises, including getting conservative justices on the court, Barrett, all those people, as well as what he did with the economy up until COVID hit and what they think that he'll do when it comes back. So I think it's no kidding this close. I think 240 to 237 is a realistic proposal. I think 61 toss-up states. Yeah. This is just my prediction. I think that 2 days from now, we're going to be sitting here and they're going to be calling states, and it may take a day or two to get to this point, but this is what they're going to say is the election is too close to call. It's going to come down to these, and no matter who technically wins, there's going to be this fight to do recounts and all that stuff. I mean, you've got all the early voting and everything else. Here in Florida, in our county, they're saying that almost 50% of people who are registered have already voted. Only 60% voted in the 2016 election entirely, including people who voted on the day of. So, if lines are long the day of, then you're looking at what, 70%, 80%? It could be the highest turnout in history in our lifetime, which is going to be.
I fully agree with that. I mean, even just in Richmond around here, I mean, we've had, I've done early voting already, which interestingly enough, I could not advocate for its CDC guidelines. Like, I'm pretty sure the social distancing was more like 4 feet distance. instead of like 6 foot distance. Mask kind of optional, I suppose. Like, as long as you kind of have it on your chin hanging down, then I guess that's mask on. So I was a little bit
Do
disappointed
you
by
own a
that, but
mask? Have you seen one at any point? Like,
yeah,
yes, you're what? Then come on in. Like, yeah.
yeah, right. It's like it's on your head, so I mean, you're fine. Move along, move along. But there, I mean, the voter turnout is tremendous, especially around here. I mean, we've had I voted at the library, and it was like we had lines 3 blocks long
Yeah.
to come in and vote. I mean, I just haven't seen anything like that before at that. So I fully agree with you that there's going to be more voter turnout, and that's part of the question here. Is when you've got Trump campaigning, his rallies are just churning out thousands and thousands of folks, and many of them first-time voters. And at the same time, you've got more millennials voting, especially for Biden. I mean, like, who's going to come out on
It's gonna be
top?
close. It's gonna
Voter
be
turnout
close.
is going to be super, super close. It's a different story than it was just 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
Now it's all like becoming more and more neck and neck. The other thing that's been interesting to see develop has been the black vote, and see how certain black celebrities have turned out, like, at least visually, some support for Trump. I mean, you got Kanye West, who you can criticize, but then you've got Ice Cube, who's like coming out and like
working with him, collaborating. Yep.
And saying he's a great guy. And then you've got Biden, who's like, because he's not campaigning very strongly, he's got Lady Gaga coming out here, he's got Obama, to try to turn out especially the black vote. So there's just so many things that are just toss-ups now that just it seemed like they were in the bag for the Democratic Party.
What I've been saying for months, man. I've been saying from the very beginning is like it could be the closest election since 2000. Could come down to one state. So we'll see. Hey, maybe we're wrong. We'll find out here. Hopefully in a few days, maybe a few weeks. I will tell you, this is going to be an awesome night. So, Election Day, Tuesday, November 3rd. Tune in for about 3 hours. We'll probably kick it off around 6 or 7 p.m. We're going to play some games. So, Marty started to come up with some really fun, some trivia games for anybody who's watching live. For you, Johnny, I'm going to have Hide and Biden is going to be one of the games. We're going to do Where's Waldo with Biden. I'm going to do Kamala Cash Out is going to be a game. That's going to be fun. We're going to do Trump's terrible tweets will be a game. So we're going to have some live games that you can join into. Anybody who's watching live can join into. And then we're going to have CNN and Fox and everything else playing in the background. So we'll be watching all the results as they come in, and we'll be announcing them, based on what they actually do count up. So if these battleground states do start coming in, you'll certainly hear it from us as soon as the news reports it as well. So join us live for about 3 or 4 hours for our election show. We'll be right here on Facebook. You can also follow us on YouTube and Twitter. We're on Instagram. Take a look at our website at theberkingconservative.com. Join us every Sunday night for shows like this one. We won't always be dressed up, but you know what? Like, we can make this a thing. Like, maybe Santa Claus for Christmas or something, like, who knows?
St. Nicholas.
My bad. So, hey, no, I'm so happy that, like, things are starting to go back to normal, like we talked about at the beginning, and, your family's doing well. And I hope for those people watching live, the same thing to you. I hope it was a great holiday season for you. Feel free to message us, catch up with us. Jonathan, I'll give you the last word, and then we're out.
Just recommend us a beer to drink. I hope that you all stay safe, especially as the holidays come along. Be well. Look after yourselves. And we wish you all a good night. We hope to see you on election night.
May all your wishes come true.